Whoa. Okay. So, turn 1 had a Mana Crypt Swamp, Dark Ritual, and a Bone Miser. Hey everyone, welcome to Commander Pop Culture. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe so you'll be notified of future content. Today I'm playing Vadrok, a subscriber request. This deck makes me think of... If you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend it, but it's a monster movie where this creature simulates hosts, and it hides in disguise amongst its life forms. How Mutate works is you pile on creatures, so kind of, if I imagine a billion creatures mixed into one life form, kind of makes me think it's very similar to the context of that monster from that movie. I like this hand. Got 2 lands, a rock, some card advantage protection, and a mutate creature. That's pretty sweet. Most people remember John Carpenter for Halloween, but I think that movie's super overrated. I think The Thing is one of the best movies of all time. Although my favorite is Big Trouble in Little China, so I might be a little biased. If you're new here, I skip over mana rocks and land drops because they're not exactly entertaining. So if you notice I jump cut, I assure you you're not missing anything. Whoa. Okay. So, turn 1 had a Mana Crypt Swamp, Dark Ritual, and a Bone Miser. I usually win with this deck via Underworld Breach in combination with a Lion's Eye Diamond and one of being Brain Freeze or Wheel of Fortune. And I have a Wheel of Fortune in my hand, so we're in good shape with that. Got one of the pieces solved. And the way that it works is I storm off milling myself, and if my Thassa's Oracle plan doesn't work out, I'll have a high enough storm count to just mill everyone else out. Hopefully they don't have any Eldrazi shuffle effects. Turn 1 Thorn of the Animist. It's kind of a bummer.
I know you gentlemen have been through a lot, and when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this couch!
I feel like that play just hinders the Etali player and myself, because the mono black Junji players got such a strong start. Who knows, maybe they won't be able to do anything now that the Thorn's out. But the third and final opponent is Belbe, Corrupted. She's a unique commander in that it can be kind of huggy. If she's in play and someone does damage, they get that much colorless mana on their second main phase. So it's a very double-edged sword. The Etali Primal, I haven't seen this deck yet, but it's just a Blightsteel Colossus from your command zone for an exorbitant amount of mana to discard. Probably discarding my Swiftfoot Boots. Bone Miser triggers are going to be pretty nutty. I think the Etali player just salty scooped and didn't bother hitting the concede button. Another way that this deck can win is Omniscience, and if I have very specific cards in my graveyard and or in my hand, I could get through my entire library. I need 2 mutate triggers and a bounce spell in my hand or graveyard. On the second mutate trigger from my commander, I recast my bounce spell and I restart the pile again. And the first mutate trigger from Vadrok, I play like some kind of card advantage spell. So card advantage on first mutate trigger, bounce spell, second mutate trigger, and I go through my whole deck that way. But that requires me to have at least a creature in play plus 2 additional mutate triggers. I guess 3 creatures in total for that to work out. Oh, we lost a player. Not before he decided to waste 5 minutes of everyone's time, but I'll just cut that out for the viewer here. In kind of a weird spot because I don't want to cast my Wheel of Fortune and refill the mono black player's hand after he's gotten down to only a handful of cards. That, and he has a Bone Miser, so whatever he does end up discarding will give him benefits, which also sucks. Might be 2 cards, but he's got such a enormous lead, I don't want to be doing him any more favors than what he's already got going for him. I can discard also. Because I'm having just too slow of a start to garner any attention. That's probably fair. I'm not doing much. About to play a Arcane Signet for 3 mana. Don't mind me. Jeez. Okay. Yeah, let's get rid of the Wheel of Fortune. I don't want to hook anybody up with cards. Okay. This game is going to be a challenge.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
Just me and you. The good thing is he's got 0 cards in hand. Restrain myself from playing the Wheel of Fortune. Unless he gets somehow a way to refill his hand, then I'll fire it off. I have plenty of things to discard. I'm not exactly attached to anything. He is going to be hitting me for 7 damage a turn that I'll have to eventually answer. I have 2 mutate creatures in hand. I'm a heck of a ways away from Omniscience, though. I think I just played Tidal Barracuda, have a blocker, and we go from there. Keep him out of my turn. If he does draw interaction, I might be able to get him with that. And I stave off some damage. Well, if I knew I was going to be signing up for a one-on-one, I guess I would have queued for it, but it might be an interesting game nonetheless to be playing. Probably some kind of reanimating spell. You wouldn't have done that for no reason. Either way, he's going to get whatever he wanted anyways. If I get another land off the top, that'd be kind of nice, because then I could Vadrok, Volcapete, get a Swiftfoot Boots. Or I could play Consecrated Sinks. Card advantage against the discard deck is really good. Maybe I want to play that. Intuition's interesting. I need a creature in play for intuition to work, so I guess we'll play Volcapete for now, and maybe I'll get lucky and it sticks. Trigma, okay. I have another creature on deck. And you're still in top deck mode. The reason why I left with Volcapete is because if I would have gotten a mutate, I would have got a +1/+1 counter on my commander, and I would have been able to block his Bone Miser efficiently. But you get the removal, so here we are. Sweet. Definitely play Consecrated Sphinx. Bet you wish you still had your Shriekmaw. Hopefully my Consecrated is enough to beat him. And hopefully he doesn't rip anything off the top of his library that can... If he doesn't kill it, then I have a mutate target, and then I can win the game with Intuition. I get my Lion's Eye Diamond and my Underworld Breach, and I have Wheel of Fortune in play, so I will probably just... What did it hit me? Hopefully it doesn't play Hatred. Didn't have it. Oh, and I drew my Brain Freeze. I'm exactly there, because it's 4 mana to mutate. And I need Intuition. So then when I wheel him with Wheel of Fortune, he draws options to kill my commander or interrupt me some way. I could counter it. Gives me that. Alright, you're gonna see how this deck wins. I target the Underworld Breach with the mutate trigger. And then I can cast things from my graveyard. Let's go under, because Consecrated Sphinx has better stats. He saw the line, because I cast the Lion's Eye Diamond, discard my hand, and then I cast the Wheel of Fortune. That was quite the game. I guess I'll give it to Tiger Blind because they're the only one that stuck around. So what would have happened is, I know my graveyard doesn't look big enough, but the Lion's Eye Diamond would have made me discard my whole hand, and then I would have had enough to cast another spell, and I would just probably cast Brain Freeze or the Wheel of Fortune. And then I have the backup of the Fierce Guardianship to counter anything that they try to interact with me with. And eventually I just storm off, or I get my Thassa's Oracle. What's unique about last game is normally I'm the person that makes everyone surrender, and there's just one guy left. It was just funny that this time around it was one of my opponents made the other two people surrendered, and I'm not the type of person to give up so easily. I will play to my outs until no matter what action I make, I'm guaranteed to lose anyways, then I surrender. You got to see the combo for one of my win conditions, and then I talked about the omniscience. I normally just cheat it out with Academy Rector, or if the game goes long enough, I hardcast it. Academy Rector is pretty funny because it staves off a lot of aggro. No one wants to mess with you, and that buys you a lot of turns. I've had occasions where like I'll have Academy Rector in play and no one will ever attack me, and I'll naturally draw Omniscience, and then at that point the game had gone on so long that I just hardcast it. Another fun little combo that is in the deck that I forgot to mention was actually Meticulous Excavation, which has synergy with my commander because it lets me bounce my mutate pile back to my hand for 3 mana. But if you get it with Dockside Extortionist, if you make 6 treasures, you net 1 mana because it costs 2 to play and then it costs 3 to activate the Meticulous Excavation. So you effectively make infinite mana, and that's another way you could get to meeting the converted costs of all your spells that are in your hand. So like, it's a good replacement for Omniscience should I get broken up in some way. I don't run a lot of counter magic. I run the 2 free spells just for when I'm in my combo and I don't want to be interrupted. I run those, but Archmage's Charm, because it's flexible. It's a counter spell in my graveyard that I could use with Vadrok mutate triggers, versus most counter spells you cannot. I'm doing things at sorcery speed. What good do I have with countering a spell in the stack that doesn't exist? So with Archmage's Charm, I have the option to draw 2 cards or to steal someone's permanent mana value 1 or less, which is normally like a Mana Crypt or Soul Ring, typically. But there's tons of really brutal 1 mana permanents out there, like Mystic Remora or Esper Sentinel, which I also run in this deck. I run 12 mutate creatures just so I consistently reach that mutate triggers. And when you mutate a trigger with multiple mutations on the single creature, you get them all. Say I had Cloud Piercer and Vadrok and I mutate that pile, I both get to cast something from my graveyard and I get to draw and discard. And I can organize the triggers however I like, so I could even discard a card from my hand that I might want to cast with Vadrok to circumvent its cost. Because when you mutate something with Vadrok, it's free. I like this deck. It has like a unique blend of both spells and creature spells because of the mutate mechanic. Normally when you play Spellslinger decks, it's super heavy into the non-creature spell department. I get to play multiple different card types and continue to go down a singular path, which is really nice. I'm not really diverging. And then I got some unique tutors, like I run Goblin Engineer, just so I could put Lion's Eye Diamond in my graveyard, and it's a mutate target. It's not a human. And Gamble's nice because if you end up discarding it, you don't really care because you have Vadrok from your command zone, and he's just really sweet utility, which normally that's all I get to use him for in a game. It usually like ends up getting back a Rhystic Study or a removal spell. The best game-ending spell in this, definitely Intuition. You get this card, it's game over because you could do it at instant speed. You do it on the last person's turn, and then you give them really awful options like I demonstrated in that last game where I got 2 combo pieces and a free counter spell, so they couldn't interact with me if they had it. And that's how Intuition's supposed to be played, is you give them 3 options where every option does not matter. You just need one of the cards to win the game. In my deck's case, I could use all 3 because of the mutation trigger from Vadrok. Oh, some other fun stuff you get to do is keeping people out of your turn. And there's, for whatever reason, in Jeskai colors, there's a ton of ways to keep people out of your turn. Like, got Title Barracuda, I got Teferi the Time Raveler, I have Grand Abolisher, and I have Conqueror's Flail. And what's nice about Conqueror's Flail and Teferi is I could get them back out of my graveyard with Vadrok if I should lose them. Narset's pretty nice in this deck too. I could get Narset back out of my graveyard with Vadrok, and if I get my Wheel of Fortune, where everyone else gets wheeled, loses their entire hand, gets left with 1 card while I get left with 7. That just happens by happenstance. I would say in all the playtesting I've had with this deck, that's happened very rarely. Yeah, that's it. Hope you all had a good night and enjoyed the game. Bye.